The morning sun rose over New Haven like it had done for the past 20 years. The field stretched out in endless rows of green and gold, food crops that would feed millions across the human colonies. The air smelled clean, fresh with the scent of earth and growing things. Children laughed as they ran to school. Workers headed to the farms and factories. It was a normal day on a peaceful world. Corporal Han Doyen stood at his post in the observation tower, watching the sunrise with his coffee in hand. He had been stationed on New Haven for 2 years now. It was boring work, really. Nothing ever happened here. The colony was so far from everything that most people forgot it even existed. 50 soldiers to guard 200,000 civilians. They spent most of their time helping with construction projects and rescue operations when someone got lost in the wilderness. Doyen liked it that way. He had seen combat before, back during the Mars Rebellion. He had watched friends die. The peace of New Haven was exactly what he needed. He sipped his coffee and smiled. Maybe boring was good. Down in the colony's main hospital, Dr. Kim Minji finished her night shift. The emergency room had been quiet. Just a broken arm from a farming accident and one child with a fever. She stretched and yawned, ready to go home to her small apartment. Being a doctor on New Haven was easy compared to the overcrowded hospitals on Earth. Here she actually had time to know her patients. She could care for them properly. Minji walked through the hospital gardens, enjoying the cool morning air. She saw Lee Jiwoo working on one of the power generators nearby. The young engineer was always fixing something. He waved at her and she waved back, good kid. Always working hard to keep the colony running smoothly. Lee Jiwoo tightened the last bolt on the generator and wiped sweat from his forehead. He was 24 years old and had come to New Haven with his family when he was just 10. This was his home. He knew every building, every system, every piece of equipment in the colony. His job was to maintain the infrastructure, and he took pride in his work. Everything had to run perfectly. He checked his tablet. All systems green. Power at full capacity. Water treatment working fine. Communications array operating normally. Park Hyun, the colony administrator, would be pleased with his morning report. Jiwoo smiled and headed toward the administration building. Park Hyun was already at his desk reviewing supply reports when Jiwoo arrived. The administrator was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. Running a colony of 200,000 people was exhausting work. Every day brought new problems to solve. Food distribution, housing assignments, medical supplies, entertainment, education. The list never ended. Everything looks good, Jiwoo said, showing him the tablet. No problems overnight. Park Hyun nodded. Good. The supply ship arrives next month. We need everything working when they get here. The two men discussed the colony's needs. More parts for the farming equipment, medical supplies, new tablets for the school. Basic things. Normal things. Neither of them knew it would be their last normal conversation. High above the planet, beyond the orbit of the two small moons, space rippled. It was not a natural phenomenon. Something large was forcing its way into normal space, something that did not belong here. In the observation tower, Corporal Han Doyen's console began beeping. He set down his coffee and checked the screen. His eyes went wide. Multiple contacts. Big ones, ships, lots of ships. He hit the alarm button. This is Observation Post 1. We have unknown vessels entering the system. I repeat, unknown vessels. At least 30 contacts, possibly more. The peaceful morning shattered like glass. Throughout the small military base, soldiers ran to their stations. The base commander, a major named Sung, rushed into the tower. Talk to me, Corporal. Sir, 32 confirmed contacts. They're big. Capital ship-sized. Moving toward the planet. Doyen's hands moved quickly over the controls, trying to hail them now. The radio crackled. Attention, human colony. This world now belongs to the Valtesh Empire. You will surrender immediately. You will submit to our authority. Resistance will result in extermination. Major Sung grabbed the microphone. This is New Haven Colony. We are a peaceful settlement. We mean no harm. Please state your intentions. The response was immediate and cold. We have stated our intentions. Surrender or die. You have 1 hour. The major looked at Doyen. Both men knew the truth. They had 50 soldiers, a few rifles, and no real weapons. The colony had never needed them. Against 32 warships, they had nothing. Send a distress call to Earth, the major said quietly. Send everything. Ship types, numbers, their demands, everything. Doyen's fingers flew over the keyboard. He began transmitting on all frequencies. This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. Hostile alien force demanding surrender. 32 capital ships in orbit. Requesting immediate assistance. I repeat, we are under attack. He kept transmitting the message over and over. It would take 3 weeks for the signal to reach the nearest relay station. 3 weeks before anyone even knew they were in trouble. He looked at the clock. They had 55 minutes before the Valtesh started shooting. Throughout the colony, people looked up at the sky. They could see the ships now, dark shapes blocking out the stars. Fear spread like wildfire. Parents grabbed their children. People ran toward their homes, toward the underground shelters that had been built for meteor strikes and storms. Dr. Kim Minji was organizing the hospital when the announcement came over the public speakers. Park Hyun's voice trying to stay calm, urging everyone to move to the shelters in an orderly fashion. She began moving patients, helping nurses carry those who could not walk. Lee Jiwoo ran through the streets, helping elderly people reach the shelters. He saw families running, crying, holding each other. His own family, his parents, his younger sister. He had to find them. He had to make sure they were safe. The hour passed too quickly. Major Sung refused to surrender. He could not hand 200,000 people over to an empire that spoke of extermination so casually. He ordered his soldiers to prepare for the worst. The bombardment began exactly on schedule. Blue beams of energy lanced down from orbit, striking buildings and turning them to dust. Explosions ripped through the colony. The power plant exploded, plunging half the settlement into darkness. The water treatment facility vanished in a ball of fire. Corporal Han Doyen kept transmitting the distress signal, even as the observation tower shook from nearby impacts. This is New Haven. We are under attack. They're bombing us. Thousands are dying. Please, someone help us, please. A beam struck the communications array. The tower filled with sparks and smoke. Doyen was thrown from his chair. He crawled back, blood running down his face, and checked the console. The array was gone. The transmission had stopped. He slumped against the wall, listening to the explosions. No one was coming. They were too far away. By the time Earth even received the message, they would all be dead or enslaved. He closed his eyes and thought of his family back on Earth. At least they were safe. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. When it finally stopped, half the colony was rubble. Fires burned everywhere. The sky was dark with smoke. Valtesh landing ships began descending, carrying soldiers to capture the survivors. In the underground shelters, Dr. Kim Minji held a crying child and listened to the sounds of boots marching overhead. She wondered if anyone had heard their call for help. She wondered if anyone would come. Park Hyun gathered the survivors. 40,000 dead in the first day. 160,000 people huddled in the darkness waiting. He told them to stay strong. He told them to have hope, but hope seemed very far away. Captain Yoon Seojin was drinking tea when the distress signal arrived. She worked at Deep Space Relay Station 7, one of the communication hubs that connected humanity's far-flung colonies. It was usually quiet work. Messages about supply shipments, news broadcasts, personal communications between families. Nothing urgent ever came through her station. The computer beeped. Priority 1 transmission. Seojin set down her tea and pulled up the message. Her blood went cold as she listened. This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. Hostile alien force demanding surrender. 32 capital ships in orbit. Requesting immediate assistance. I repeat, we are under attack. The voice was calm at first, professional, but as the message continued, she could hear the fear creeping in. Explosions in the background, screaming. The sound of a building collapsing. Then the voice again, desperate now. This is New Haven. We are under attack. They're bombing us. Thousands are dying. Please, someone help us, please. Then static. The transmission had ended 3 weeks ago. The signal had been traveling through space all this time. Seojin felt sick. She had no idea if anyone on New Haven was still alive. She immediately forwarded the message to Earth Military Command with a red alert tag. On Earth, in the sprawling complex of United Defense Forces headquarters, alarms began sounding. General Kang Minho was in a meeting when his aide burst through the door. Sir, we have a situation. Priority 1 distress call from New Haven Colony. Kang Minho was a veteran of 30 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had seen terrible things. But when he listened to the recording from New Haven, his hands clenched into fists. The screams of dying civilians, the desperate pleas for help, the sound of a colony being destroyed. He called an emergency meeting of the military council. Within an hour, every high-ranking officer on Earth was in the command center. They listened to the recording in silence. When it ended, the room erupted. New Haven is 6 weeks away at maximum speed, Admiral Choi Sun-woo said. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and iron in her voice. By the time we arrive, they'll all be dead or enslaved. Then we make sure we arrive ready to kill every single one of those alien bastards. Another admiral growled. General Kang Minho raised his hand for silence. We don't know what we're facing. We need intelligence on this Valtesh Empire. The intelligence officers worked through the night. They found references to the Valtesh in old alien databases that human explorers had discovered. The Valtesh Empire was old and brutal. They conquered species and used them as slaves. Entire civilizations had disappeared after encountering them. They were ruthless, efficient, and powerful, but they had never fought humans before. The next morning, General Kang Minho made a decision that would change humanity's future. He released the recording to the public. Every human world, every space station, every colony heard the desperate cries from New Haven, heard the sounds of their people dying. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Rage. Pure, burning rage swept through humanity like a wildfire. New Haven was 6 weeks away. It was a small colony that most people had never heard of. It did not matter. They were human. They were family. And someone had hurt them. Protests erupted on every world demanding military action. Politicians who suggested caution were shouted down. Peace activists who urged diplomacy were ignored. The message was clear and universal. Go now, save them. Make them pay. The military did not need to be told twice. Admiral Choi Sun-woo was given command of the largest fleet ever assembled by humanity. 500 warships, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, 200,000 Marines. Enough firepower to level a planet. Enough soldiers to fight a war. The fleet began gathering in Earth orbit. Ships came from Mars, from Europa, from the asteroid belt. Humanity had been at peace for 20 years. They had built colonies, explored new worlds, focused on growth and prosperity. But they had not forgotten how to fight. They had not forgotten how to build weapons. Admiral Choi Sun-woo stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UHS Indomitable, and watched the fleet assemble. 500 ships. More were still arriving. She had asked for 300. Command had given her 500 and told her to take more if she needed them. Her second-in-command, Captain Nam Ji-soo, stood beside her. They really want blood for this, he said quietly. They hurt our people, Sun-woo replied. They hurt civilians, children, the weak and helpless. Did they think we would just let it go? Maybe they didn't know what humans are like when someone threatens our own. They're about to learn. The fleet launched 48 hours after the distress call reached Earth. 500 warships, accelerated out of the solar system, heading for New Haven at maximum speed. It would take 3 weeks to reach the colony. 3 weeks of not knowing if they would arrive to find survivors or just graves. Admiral Sun-woo addressed the fleet before they jumped to faster-than-light speed. Her face appeared on screens throughout every ship. Soldiers, pilots, Marines, engineers, doctors, everyone stopped to listen. We are going to New Haven, she said. We are going to face an enemy that attacked our people without warning. An enemy that has enslaved and destroyed other species. They think we are weak because we are far from home. They think we will abandon our colony because it is easier than fighting. She paused, her eyes hard as steel. They are wrong. We do not abandon our own. We do not forget our people. No matter how far, no matter how dangerous, we are coming, and we are bringing hell with us. The speech was broadcast back to Earth and throughout human space. It became a rallying cry. Ships that had not been part of the original fleet began following. Volunteers signed up by the millions. Humanity was moving, all of it, like a great beast waking from sleep. On New Haven, 3 weeks after the attack, the survivors huddled in their underground shelters. Dr. Kim Minji had turned a maintenance tunnel into a hospital. She worked by the light of emergency lamps, treating injuries with dwindling supplies. People were dying. Not from the attack anymore, but from infections, from disease, from starvation. Lee Ji-woo had become an engineer of necessity. He fixed broken air filters, repaired damaged lights, found ways to purify water from underground streams. He worked 20 hours a day, moving from shelter to shelter, keeping people alive. Corporal Han Doyen had survived the destruction of the observation tower. He had a deep gash on his head and a broken arm, but he was alive. He organized the few remaining soldiers into a resistance force. They raided Valtesh supply depots at night. They freed prisoners when they could. They made the occupation as difficult as possible, but they were losing. Slowly, steadily, they were losing. The Valtesh had unlimited soldiers, unlimited supplies. Every human they captured was put to work as a slave or executed as an example. Overlord Thane, the Valtesh commander, was growing impatient with the resistance. Park Hyun tried to keep hope alive. He moved through the shelters, talking to people, reassuring them. But he could see it in their eyes. The hope was dying. They had sent the distress call 3 weeks ago. No one had come. No one was coming. They were alone. In one of the deeper shelters, a mother held her 2 children and sang to them softly. The girl was 6. The boy was 4. They were hungry and scared. She sang old songs from Earth, songs about home and safety and love. She sang even though she did not believe the words anymore. Above them, Valtesh soldiers patrolled the ruins of the colony. They had established control. The human resistance was annoying but manageable. Overlord Thane sent a report back to the Valtesh Empire. The conquest was complete. The human colony was defeated. They would begin full exploitation operations soon. Thane was pleased with himself. Humans were weak, just like intelligence had suggested. They had some courage, he would admit. The resistance fighters were brave. But bravery meant nothing against superior power. The humans would learn their place. They would serve the Empire or they would die. He never imagined that 500 human warships were burning through space toward his position. He never imagined the fury that was coming for him. He had hurt humans. He had killed their children. He had enslaved their people, and humanity was coming to collect the debt. 3 weeks had passed since the bombardment. 3 weeks of living like animals in the dark tunnels beneath New Haven. Dr. Kim Minji had forgotten what sunlight looked like. She had forgotten what it felt like to not be afraid. Her makeshift hospital was a nightmare. The wounded lay on blankets on the cold floor. She had no proper medicine left. No antibiotics. No painkillers. She used alcohol to clean wounds and gave people strips of cloth to bite down on when she had to operate. People died every day. She could do nothing but watch. A man was brought in with a gunshot wound. He had been caught by Valtesh soldiers during a supply raid. The bullet had torn through his stomach. Minji looked at the wound and knew he would not survive. She had no way to repair the damage. She held his hand as he died, whispering that it would be okay, even though nothing was okay. After he died, she went to a quiet corner and cried. She cried for him. She cried for all of them. Then she wiped her eyes and went back to work. There were others who still needed help. She could not afford to break down. Not yet. Lee Jiwoo was in another section of the tunnels working on the air circulation system. The filters were clogged with dust and needed constant cleaning. If the air stopped flowing, people would suffocate. He worked in the dark with a small flashlight, his hands covered in grease and dirt. He heard footsteps behind him. His sister Yuna came around the corner. She was 20 years old and had been helping distribute the little food they had left. She looked thin and exhausted. "How bad is it?" Jiwoo asked. "We have food for maybe 5 more days," Yuna said quietly. "The water is holding, but barely. People are getting sick from drinking it." Jiwoo closed his eyes. 5 days, then starvation. They had held out for 3 weeks, but time was running out. "What about the surface? Can we raid the Valtesh supplies again?" Doyen says it's too dangerous. They've increased patrols. Last night's raid lost 4 people for 20 pounds of food. "We can't keep doing that," Jiwoo wanted to scream. They were trapped, slowly dying in the dark while their enemies walked freely above them. Did anyone respond to the distress call? Yuna shook her head. "No signal has come through. I don't think anyone is coming, brother." He did not answer. He just went back to cleaning the filter. Because if he stopped working, if he let himself think about their situation, he would lose his mind. In another tunnel, Corporal Han Doyen met with the remaining soldiers. There were 32 of them left. 32 out of the original 50. The others had died in the bombardment or during raids. They were all injured in some way. Broken bones, burns, cuts that would not heal properly. But they kept fighting. We need to hit the supply depot near the old factory, Doyen said. They're stockpiling food there. If we can get it, we buy the colony another week. A young private named Kang spoke up. Sir, that depot has 50 guards. We're 32, and we have maybe 10 rifles that still work. I know the odds, Doyen said, but we don't have a choice. People are starving. We have to try. The soldiers looked at each other. They all knew it was probably a suicide mission, but they also knew Doyen was right. They had to try. They had to do something. They planned the raid for that night. It would be quick and brutal. Get in, grab what they could, get out. Doyen did not expect all of them to make it back. He wrote a letter to his family on Earth, knowing they would probably never receive it. He tucked it into his jacket and prepared his weapons. On the surface, in what had been the colony administration building, Overlord Thane reviewed reports. The human resistance was weakening. Food raids were becoming desperate and sloppy. Soon they would have no choice but to surrender or starve. He was pleased. The humans had shown more fight than expected, but the outcome was inevitable. He had already sent word to the Empire that New Haven was secure. Soon, slave ships would arrive to transport the surviving humans to work camps across Valtesh space. His second-in-command entered the room. Overlord, the prisoners you requested have been assembled. Thane stood. Good. It is time to send a message to the resistance. He walked out to the plaza where 100 human prisoners stood under guard. They were the ones captured during raids. Men and women. Some were soldiers. Some were civilians who had been caught trying to find food. They stood in a line, hands bound, fear in their eyes. Thane walked in front of them slowly. You humans are stubborn, he said. You refuse to accept reality. You continue this pointless resistance. This ends now, he gave a signal. His soldiers raised their weapons. The prisoners screamed, begged, called out for mercy. There was no mercy. The Valtesh soldiers opened fire. 100 humans died in seconds. Their bodies fell to the ground. The sound of gunfire echoed across the ruined colony. In the tunnels below, people heard the shots. They heard the screams. Dr. Kim Minji stopped working and listened. She knew what that sound meant. She closed her eyes and prayed for the dead. Park Hyun, the colony administrator, called a meeting that evening. He gathered the community leaders in the largest shelter. About 50 people crowded into the space. They all looked tired and hopeless. We need to discuss our options, Park Hyun said. We're running out of food, water, medicine. We can't survive much longer down here. An older woman spoke up. What options? We can't fight them. We can't hide forever. What else is there? We could surrender, someone else said. Maybe if we stop fighting, they'll let us live. The room erupted in argument. Some people wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight to the last person. Parents worried about their children. Soldiers felt responsible for protecting civilians. Everyone was scared and desperate. Park Hyun raised his hands for quiet. I know we're all frightened. I know it seems hopeless. But we sent that distress call. Someone heard it. I have to believe someone heard it. That was 3 weeks ago, a man shouted. If help was coming, it would be here by now. We're alone. We have to face reality. Reality is that we're human, a voice said from the back. Corporal Han Doyen pushed through the crowd. His face was bruised and bandaged, but his eyes were hard. Reality is that we don't surrender to murderers. Reality is that we survive no matter what. Easy for you to say, the older woman snapped. You're a soldier. We're farmers, teachers, engineers. We're not built for this. You've lasted 3 weeks under bombardment and occupation, Doyen said. You've hidden in the dark. You've fought starvation. You've stayed human when everything tried to break you. That makes you stronger than any soldier I've ever known. The room went quiet. People looked at each other. They had survived. Against everything, they had survived. We hold out, Park Hyun said finally. We hold out as long as we can. We stay alive. We stay human. And we believe that someone is coming. That night, Doyen led his soldiers in the raid on the supply depot. They moved through the ruins in the darkness using every piece of cover. They could see the Valtesh guards around the depot. 50 of them, just like the scout had reported. Doyen gave the signal. His soldiers opened fire. The battle was short and vicious. Humans fought with everything they had. They used their rifles until the ammunition ran out, then fought with knives and rocks and bare hands. Valtesh soldiers fell, but so did humans. When it was over, 15 of Doyen's soldiers were dead. The rest were wounded. but they had killed 40 Valtesh soldiers and captured enough food to last the colony 10 days. They dragged the supplies back to the tunnels, leaving their dead behind. There was no time for proper burials. Dr. Kim Minji treated the wounded when they returned. She worked through the night, sewing wounds closed, setting broken bones, trying to save lives with tools and supplies that were barely functional. 3 more soldiers died despite her efforts. Lee Jiwoo distributed the food they had captured. 10 days of supplies for 160,000 people. It was not much, barely a few bites per person, but it was something. It was hope. In the deepest tunnel, far from everyone else, Park Hyun sat alone in the dark. He was so tired, so very tired. He had tried to stay strong for everyone, but privately he was losing hope. 3 weeks. No response. No rescue, nothing. He heard a sound. Lee Jiwoo had found him. The young engineer sat down next to him. "I wanted to thank you," Jiwoo said, "for keeping us together, for making us believe." "I'm not sure I believe anymore," Park Hyun admitted. "Then believe because we need you to," Jiwoo said. "We need someone to have hope when we can't. That's what leaders do." Park Hyun looked at the young man. 24 years old, should have had a full life ahead of him. Instead, he was dying slowly in the dark, fighting for every breath. And still he had hope. "Okay," Park Hyun said. "Okay, we keep believing." Jiwoo smiled and pulled out his tablet. It was damaged and barely working, but he had been using it to monitor what system still functioned. He checked it every day out of habit. He glanced at the screen and froze. "What is it?" Park Hyun asked. "Energy signatures," Jiwoo whispered. "High orbit, big ones. Really big." He looked up, his eyes wide. "Something's coming." Admiral Choi Sun-woo stood on the bridge of the UHS Indomitable and watched as her fleet prepared to exit faster than light travel. 500 warships, the pride of humanity's military. 3 weeks they had traveled, 3 weeks of not knowing what they would find when they arrived. 30 seconds to emergence, her navigation officer called out. Sun-woo felt calm. She always did before battle. The rage would come later during the fight. Now, she needed to be ice, cold and calculating. She looked at her second-in-command, Captain Nam Ji-soo. "All ships ready?" "All ships confirmed ready, Admiral. Weapons charged, Marines standing by. We're going in hot." "Good." Sun-woo pressed a button on her command chair. Her face appeared on screens throughout the fleet. 500 ships, 200,000 soldiers, all of them listening. "This is Admiral Sun-woo. In 30 seconds we arrive at New Haven. We don't know what we'll find there. We don't know if we're too late. But I promise you this. If our people are alive, we will save them. And if they're dead, we will avenge them. Every single one." The countdown hit 0. 500 human warships exploded into normal space at the edge of the New Haven system. Their sensors immediately began scanning. What they found made Sun-woo's blood boil. 80 Valtesh warships in orbit around the planet. The colony in ruins. Energy signatures from the surface suggesting the survivors were underground. The Valtesh had parked their ships in high orbit, comfortable and confident. They were not expecting company. "Ma'am, the Valtesh are hailing us," the communications officer said. "Put them on screen." The face that appeared was reptilian, with hard scales and cold eyes. Overlord Thane looked at the human fleet with something between amusement and contempt. "Humans, you have traveled far for nothing. This world belongs to the Valtesh Empire now. Leave while you still can." Sun-woo leaned forward. Her voice was quiet, but every person on both sides heard the danger in it. "You attacked a human colony. You killed our civilians. You enslaved our people. I am Admiral Choi Sun-woo of the United Earth Defense Forces. You have one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons. Release every human prisoner. Do it now, or I will destroy every single ship in this system." Thane laughed. Actually laughed. "You threaten me? You have 500 ships. I have 80 battleships of the Valtesh Empire. Your technology is primitive. Your species is young and weak. You cannot possibly—" "You have 30 seconds," Sun-woo interrupted. 29, 28. Thane's expression changed from amusement to anger. "You dare, you ignorant child. I will teach you the price of arrogance. He cut the transmission and immediately ordered his fleet to attack. 80 Valtesh warships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human fleet. It was an impressive display of firepower, enough to level a planet, enough to destroy any normal fleet. The human shields absorbed every shot without even flickering. On the bridge of the indomitable, Sunwoo smiled. It was not a nice smile. All ships, free fire. Show them what happens when you hurt our people. 500 human warships opened fire at once. The difference in technology was not just significant. It was devastating. Humanity had spent 20 years of peace developing their weapons. Railguns that fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, plasma lances that could cut through any known armor, fusion missiles that turned ships into expanding clouds of debris. The first volley destroyed 15 Valtesh ships, just gone, turned to dust in an instant. Thane watched from his flagship in horror as his fleet began dying. He had never seen anything like this. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be weak. Return fire. All ships concentrate on their flagship. The Valtesh fleet focused their weapons on the Indomitable. Hundreds of energy beams struck her shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. The shields were holding, but barely. Shields at 60%, the tactical officer called out. Evasive maneuvers, Sunwoo ordered calmly. Target that flagship. I want Thane alive if possible, but I'll settle for debris. The Indomitable fired her main railgun. A solid slug of metal, accelerated to incredible speed, crossed the distance to Thane's flagship in less than a second. It punched through the shields like they were not there, punched through the armor, punched through 3 decks. The flagship shuddered and began venting atmosphere. Meanwhile, human fighter squadrons swarmed the Valtesh ships, small, fast, and incredibly maneuverable. They dove between the larger ships, firing missiles and laser bursts. Valtesh point defenses tried to stop them, but the human pilots were too good, too fast. Captain Nam Jisoo watched the tactical display. Ma'am, we've destroyed 47 enemy ships. The rest are attempting to retreat. No, Sunwoo said flatly. No retreat, no escape. They hurt our people. They pay for it. All of them. The human fleet pursued the fleeing Valtesh ships. It was not even a fair fight. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and far more deadly. One by one, the Valtesh ships died. Explosions bloomed across the dark of space like terrible flowers. On the surface of New Haven, in the underground tunnels, Lee Jiwoo stared at his tablet in disbelief. The energy signatures above them. Hundreds of them. Human signatures. He recognized the identification codes. Earth ships. Earth was here. Earth had come for them. He ran through the tunnels, shouting, "They're here. They came. Earth is here." People poured out of the shelters crying, laughing, hugging each other. Dr. Kim Minji collapsed against a wall and wept with relief. Park Hyun fell to his knees and thanked every god he could think of. Corporal Han Doyun and his surviving soldiers cheered until their voices were hoarse. They were saved. After 3 weeks of darkness and death and despair, they were saved. Above them, the space battle was already over. 2 hours. That was all it took. 78 Valtesh ships destroyed, 2 damaged and drifting, their crews either dead or dying. Thane's flagship was disabled but intact. Sunwoo had ordered precision strikes to cripple it without destroying it completely. She wanted Thane alive. "Ma'am, the enemy flagship is hailing us," communications reported. "It's Overlord Thane. Put him on." Thane's face appeared. His confidence was gone. His ship was dying around him. He looked terrified. "Please, we surrender. Mercy. We ask for mercy." "Mercy," Sunwoo said softly. "Did you show mercy to the civilians you bombed? Did you show mercy to the children you killed? Did you show mercy to the prisoners you executed? Please." "We did not know. We did not understand. Please." "You're right," Sunwoo said. "You didn't understand. You didn't understand that when you attack humans, When you hurt our people, we will cross any distance to make you pay. Now you understand. Marines, board that ship. Take Thane alive. Kill anyone who resists. Human dropships launched toward the flagship. Marines in powered armor cut through the hull and poured inside. Valtesh soldiers tried to fight. They died quickly. Human Marines moved through the ship like a force of nature, unstoppable, unforgiving. They found Thane on the bridge, surrounded by his personal guard. The guards raised their weapons. The Marines fired first. The guards fell. Thane raised his hands and begged for his life. A Marine sergeant, a woman named Ko Yuna, walked up to him. She looked at the alien who had caused so much suffering. She wanted to kill him. Her finger tightened on the trigger. But orders were orders. On your knees, she said. Thane knelt. She bound his hands and dragged him to the dropship. The Admiral wants to talk to you. On the surface, the Valtesh soldiers realized something was terribly wrong. They saw the explosions in orbit. They saw debris raining down from the sky. Their command structure was in chaos. And then human dropships began descending from orbit. Hundreds of them. The Valtesh commander on the ground tried to organize a defense. He ordered his soldiers to use human prisoners as shields. If the humans wanted their people back, they would have to be careful. They would have to negotiate. He was wrong. The human Marines hit the ground with overwhelming force. They knew exactly where the prisoners were. They had been scanning from orbit. Sniper teams took position and began eliminating Valtesh soldiers with precision shots. Assault. Teams breached the buildings where prisoners were held. Every shot was perfect, every movement calculated. The Marines saved hostages and killed enemies in the same breath. The Valtesh soldiers, who had thought themselves superior warriors, broke and ran. The humans chased them down. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Within 4 hours, every Valtesh soldier on New Haven was either dead or captured. Corporal Han Doyun stood in the ruins of the Colony Plaza and watched human Marines secure the area. He was crying. He did not care who saw. A Marine captain approached him and saluted. "Corporal Han Doyun?" "Yes, sir," Doyun managed to say. "We received your distress call, Corporal. We're sorry it took so long to get here, but we're here now. You and your people are safe." Doyun saluted back, his hand shaking. "Thank you, sir. Thank you." All across the colony, human soldiers helped survivors out of the tunnels. They brought food, water, and medical supplies. Dr. Kim Minji found herself surrounded by military doctors who took over treating the wounded with proper equipment and medicine. She sat down and cried while they worked. Lee Jiwoo and his sister Yuna stood together, watching the sun rise over the colony. It was the first sunrise they had seen in 3 weeks. Yuna held her brother's hand and smiled. The morning after the liberation, Dr. Kim Minji walked through the field hospital that Earth's military had set up. Real hospital beds. Clean sheets, medicine, equipment that actually worked. She watched as military doctors treated her patients with supplies she could have only dreamed of during the occupation. A young doctor approached her. "Dr. Kim? I'm Lieutenant Park Jin-yun, Medical Corps. We're setting up the surgical wing. Would you help us identify the critical cases?" Minji nodded, but she felt strange. For 3 weeks, she had been the only doctor. She had made every decision. Now there were dozens of qualified medical personnel, and she was not sure what to do with herself. "Dr. Kim," Jin-hyun said gently, "when was the last time you slept?" She tried to remember. Days ago? A week? She honestly could not recall. "I don't know. Come with me." He led her to a quiet tent and pointed at a cot. "You've done enough. Rest now. We'll take care of your patients," Minji wanted to argue. Wanted to keep working, but her body had other ideas. She lay down and was asleep in seconds. She slept for 16 hours straight. No nightmares, no fear. Just deep, peaceful sleep. Across the colony, similar scenes played out. Lee Jiwoo tried to help repair the infrastructure, but military engineers gently told him to rest. They had equipment and supplies that could rebuild the colony faster than he could. Jiwoo found his parents and sister alive and healthy, and they held each other and cried tears of joy. Corporal Han Doyen and his surviving soldiers were given medical treatment and debriefed by military intelligence. They told their stories of the occupation. The raids, the executions, the desperate fight to survive. The intelligence officers recorded everything carefully. Evidence. All of it was evidence. Park Hyun, the colony administrator, met with Admiral Choi Sun-woo on the third day after liberation. She had come down to the surface to see the colony in person. She walked through the ruins slowly, her face expressionless, but Hyun could see the anger in her eyes. 40,000 dead, he said quietly. 40,000 civilians. We tried to protect them. You did more than try, Sun-woo said. You survived. You fought. You kept your people together under impossible circumstances. That takes strength most people don't have. We thought no one was coming. We thought we were alone. Sun-woo stopped walking and looked at him. You were never alone. You are human. That means every human everywhere is your family. We will always come for our family. No matter how far, no matter how long it takes. She continued walking and stopped at a memorial that survivors had built. A simple wall with names carved into it. All 40,000 who had died. Sun-woo placed her hand on the wall and closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were filled with cold fury. They will pay for this, she said. Every one of them. On the fifth day, Overlord Thane was brought before Admiral Sun-woo on the Indomitable. He was bound and guarded by 4 Marines in full armor. He looked small and pathetic now. Nothing like the confident commander who had ordered the bombing of New Haven. Overlord Thane, Sun-woo said, you are charged with crimes against humanity. The murder of 40,000 civilians, the enslavement and torture of prisoners, the destruction of a peaceful colony. How do you plead? Thane said nothing. He just stared at the floor. Your silence is noted. You will be transported to Earth for trial. You will be held accountable for every life you took, every person you hurt. Justice will be served. Thane looked up at her then. The Empire will not allow this. They will come for me. They will destroy you. Sun-woo smiled. It was terrifying. Let them try. In fact, I hope they do. I would very much enjoy showing them what happens when they threaten humans. Thane was taken away. He would spend the rest of his life in a human prison. Sun-woo made sure the galaxy would know it. She wanted everyone to understand what happened when you hurt human civilians. Meanwhile, medical staff treated both human survivors and Valtesh prisoners. Dr. Kim Minji found herself working alongside military doctors to treat wounded Valtesh soldiers. She struggled with it. These were the same creatures who had bombed her hospital, who had killed her patients, who had caused so much suffering. A young Valtesh soldier lay on a table, his chest torn open by shrapnel. He was dying. Minji could save him. She had the tools now. The medicine, everything she needed. She just had to decide if she wanted to. Lieutenant Park Jin-hyun noticed her hesitation. Dr. Kim? Are you okay? He's one of them, she said quietly. He probably killed people I knew. Probably, Jin-hyun agreed. But he's also a wounded prisoner. And we're doctors. We took an oath. Minji closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she began working to save the Valtesh soldier's life, because she was human, and humans did not become monsters just because monsters had hurt them. On the 10th day after liberation, Admiral Sun-woo recorded a message. It would be broadcast to every known spacefaring species in the galaxy. Earth wanted everyone to understand what had happened here. What would happen if anyone else made the same mistake? Sun-woo stood on the bridge of her flagship surrounded by her officers. Behind her, through the windows, 500 human warships hung in orbit around New Haven. The camera began recording. My name is Admiral Choi Sun-woo of the United Earth Defense Forces. 10 days ago, we arrived at New Haven Colony to find it under occupation by the Valtesh Empire. 40,000 human civilians had been murdered. 160,000 more were enslaved and suffering. The Valtesh believed they could attack humanity without consequence. They were wrong. The recording showed footage of the space battle, Valtesh ships exploding, the overwhelming superiority of human weapons, the complete destruction of their fleet in just 2 hours. The Valtesh Empire is an old and powerful civilization. They have conquered many species, enslaved entire worlds. They believed themselves invincible. In 2 hours, we destroyed 78 of their warships. We captured their commander. We liberated our people. We did this because the Valtesh made a fundamental miscalculation. They did not understand what humanity is. The recording shifted to show the colony, the ruins, the memorial wall with 40,000 names, human soldiers helping survivors, the rebuilding effort. Humanity is not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the oldest. We are not the most advanced. But we have something that many species seem to lack. We have loyalty. We have love. We have an absolute refusal to abandon our own. When you attack one human, you attack all of humanity. When you hurt our people, we will find you. We will cross any distance. We will face any enemy. And we will make you pay. Sun Wu's expression hardened. Her voice became cold steel. This message is for every species that might consider humanity an easy target. This is for every empire that thinks they can harm our colonies without consequences. Understand this clearly. An attack on any human, anywhere in the galaxy, will be met with the full force of Earth's military. We will not negotiate with those who murder civilians. We will not show mercy to those who enslave our people. We will come for you, and we will destroy you. The recording showed Overlord Thane being led away in chains. It showed the Valtesh prisoners being held for trial. It showed the human fleet in all its terrible glory. We are humanity. We are peaceful when unprovoked. We are generous with our friends. We are curious about the universe and eager to learn from other species. But harm our people, threaten our families, attack our colonies, and you will learn why we survived every challenge our homeworld ever threw at us. You will learn why we climbed from caves to the stars. You will learn what happens when you make humanity angry. Sun Wu paused, letting her words sink in. To the Valtesh Empire specifically, you have 48 hours to release every slave you hold. Every human, every alien, every sentient being you have ever taken. Release them all, or we will come to your homeworld and take them ourselves, and we will not be gentle about it. The choice is yours. The recording ended. Within hours, it was being broadcast across the galaxy. Every species with the ability to receive transmissions watched it. The reactions were immediate and dramatic. On the Valtesh homeworld, the Imperial Council convened an emergency session. They watched the footage of their fleet being destroyed. They watched their mighty Overlord Thane begging for mercy. They watched the human ships hovering in orbit, unscratched and ready for more. The Emperor stood and addressed the Council. Release the slaves. All of them. Immediately. Send an official apology to Earth. Sue for peace. Do it now. But Your Majesty, an advisor protested. Our reputation. Our strength. How can we? Our fleet is destroyed, the Emperor roared. Our soldiers are captured. And those human ships can reach our homeworld in 2 weeks. They will do to us what they did at New Haven. Release the slaves. All of them. Now. Within 24 hours, the Valtesh Empire released every slave they held. Millions of beings from dozens of species suddenly found themselves free. The Empire publicly apologized to humanity and begged for peace. Earth, satisfied with the response, accepted. Other species across the galaxy took note. Aggressive empires quietly shelved expansion plans. Raiders avoided human ships. Slavers gave human colonies a wide berth. Nobody wanted to face the wrath that the Valtesh had encountered. Some species reached out to humanity with offers of friendship and alliance. They had seen how humans protected their own. They wanted that protection,